Hi friends! Today I am sharing a card that is probably the quickest card that I have made in years. I was feeling a little uninspired this week, so I jumped onto the My Favorite Things website and found their newest sketch challenge. And so I was inspired to combine the new artistic prints with a tried and true favorite, the Drink Up Some Sunshine stamps, and a couple of their inks. I'm actually going to swap in a yellow for that brown, but we'll get to that soon. And before we start, I just want to ask you now, if you haven't already, it's a great time to hit that subscribe button so you can come hang out with me every Friday for new card and crafty inspiration. So I want to show you the sketch itself. This is what it looks like. I did kind of rotate it around so that my arches go on the top left corner, but that is what we're working with. So when I saw that, I immediately thought rainbow, and then I thought, everybody's going to do a rainbow and I don't want to do what everybody else is going to do. So I grabbed these abstract prints, these artistic prints, stamps from My Favorite Things, which are newer. And I had the smaller set that came out a while ago. When the new set came out, I knew I needed to add it to my stash. So I used the lemon drop ink from My Favorite Things to stamp out that sketchy circle. That's going to end up being our sun. And I'm holding the place of that little girl image. I'm not stamping her down. I'm just using her as a placeholder to make sure that these splotchy stamps are kind of in the shape to create those two arches. And I'm going to swap out because I had some of these abstract shapes are a little rough and bumpier and look a little more like watercolor. And some of them are smooth and very round. So I ended up doing the bumpier ones on this inner circle and the smoother ones on the outer circle. And I know it's not exactly the same shape as the inspiration sketch, but that is the fun thing about the My Favorite Things sketch challenge, is that it's just meant to be inspiration. You don't have to do the exact thing of what it's being shown there. So it's the arches kind of next to each other in that upper corner. That's the idea that I kind of stuck with. And so I stamped down twice that first inner layer with the tropical teal, that darker teal ink. And then I'm gonna build out the second arch and do it with that lighter splash ink. I did go in this round with some of these smaller, I guess one or two of these smaller little squares to fill in, because that bigger gap down towards the bottom is the little girl and her floaty is going to be sitting there. And I wanted my lighter teals to overlap my darker teals. So I'm placing those bigger stamps there and just kind of connecting it down. These ones in this color definitely give me the vibe of like sea glass, which I absolutely love. And I'm going to stamp that a couple times just because I am using the mini blocks. It does sometimes leave like the lines in the inking, but once you do it twice, I feel like those pretty much go away. We will add a few more of those smaller squares back in at the end, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. So I did trim off just a 1/4 inch off of each side of my A2 base layer here that I did with this craft cardstock. And I'm stamping one of the longer sentiments from that same stamp set, that Drink Up Some Sunshine. So it's the Have a Sunshiny Birthday. And I love that it's down in the opposite corner, just kind of balancing everything out. And I feel like my tendency is to put my images in the lower section of the card. And like if I was going to do this sketch without pushing myself, I would follow the sketch exactly, and I'd have the images down in the right hand corner and my sentiment up above. But because that's what I feel like I automatically wanted to do, it was fun to kind of force myself to try something different. So I stamped out the little girl and the two leafy branches with my Honeybee Stamps Intense Black ink. This is currently my go-to ink for alcohol marker coloring. And we are going to shade these in. So I am coloring in the little branches, both of them with the BG96 all over. And then I'm going to pull in some BG99 just to add a little more contrast to the center of the leaves. And I'm warning you up front while I'm coloring these in that at one point in this video, towards the end of my coloring, I turned off my camera so that I could go help my husband bring in groceries. And I said to myself that I would not forget to turn the camera back on, because I wasn't going to be out there that long. And then I came back to my desk and I sat down to color and finish the card and assemble it, and I didn't turn my camera back on. So I'll show you a review, and I got most of the coloring in here. So I'm just warning you now ahead of time. We're gonna jump ahead at some point and I'll walk you through what happened while I was putting away groceries. So for the skin tone, I did go with my kind of standard go-to Caucasian skin tone. I went in with my EO4 with a really thin line as a border just to start creating some shadow and depth. Then I went in with my E13 to start blending that out. I wanted to make sure that the top of her legs were really highlighted to emphasize that she's sitting like that with her knees kind of poking up. Same with the tops of her arms getting some nice sunshine, or at least the one that's not under the coconut. So I'm blending that out with the E11 and E00. And as always, I have all of my Copic colors down in the description below for you, as well as links to all of the products that I used today. I gave her a little blush because she is out in the sun working on her tan, so she might be a little flushed. And then I'm going in with some RVs to shade in this swimsuit. And at first I thought that this was too bright. I thought maybe that I ruined it because the craft and the kind of more jewel tone teals that I was using definitely are a little less saturated in color. They have a little more like gray and brown to them just because I stamped them on that craft. But I really think that the hot pink kind of brings a really fun and bright energy to the card that it wouldn't have had otherwise. And I actually really love it and how I tied it in at the end with my embellishments. So if that has ever happened to you or that's a concern, definitely stick around so that you can see how I bring the pink in somewhere else for that extra little touch of color. I did shade in my little inner tube and her headband in these yellows, and the same thing when I held it up to my card against the yellow that I had stamped, it just looked so bright. So to tone down the yellows, I grabbed a Y28, which has this golden, almost kind of brown tone to it, and a little bit of Y38 to blend that out. And it just kind of helped to desaturate everything and add a little bit more of those brown tones in, and I think it was just enough to kind of link those yellows to the yellow that I stamped as my sun. So I am shading in the coconut with some E70 markers, and I'll shade in the top part with a little light beige, and then I'm going in with a Y13 to shade in this just the very center part of that sun. I still wanted that sketchy feel around it, but I wanted it to be yellow. And then here we are. This is me post grocery bringing in. So this is how the card came together. I adhered the little girl down with foam tape. I added the leaves under her flat with liquid glue. I colored in her hair with the E44, 43, and 30 for just a light kind of ash blonde. And I grabbed 3 of these hot pink jewels from the Pink Fresh Essential Jewel Kit. I love this kit. I got it off Amazon. I have it linked in my thing down below, but I love it. It has so many good colors and it was such a good deal. So I added 3 of those, just kind of scattered around, and I really think that helps kind of bring the pink in, so it makes a lot more sense. But then I decided that I needed a couple more of these small splotches of color just to fill in and make sure that this whole thing read as an arch and had more of the same general layout of the original sketch. So this is me just adding in a few more of those splotches. I would have added one more kind of between the darker teal and that pink rhinestone up on the upper right corner, but kind of near her drink. I debated it, but I was concerned that it would get too close to the rhinestone and that it would just be too much. So I left it at this, and I hope you will forgive me for forgetting to turn on my camera, but this whole card process took less than 25 minutes, and that is absolutely unheard of for me. A card takes me a minimum an hour, maybe 45 minutes if I'm really pushing it. So this was a super easy card. If you want to participate in the My Favorite Things sketch, I'll leave a link to their blog down in the description below. I am not affiliated with them in any way. I'm not on their design team. I just love their sketches for times when, or any of their challenges really, for times when I am needing some inspiration, and I hope that you will check it out. So I hope that you have the most amazing week. I will see you soon, and until then, happy crafting.